Welcome to the IVF Abroad podcast for people who are struggling with infertility and trying to conceive, and who are facing more obstacles than options when it comes to having fertility testing or treatment in their home countries. Alongside other experts, I will share, educate and empower you on your journey and help you to learn more about going abroad for advanced fertility testing and treatments like IVF and egg donation. I'm Emma Haslam, your host, now mum of one, and the go-to expert in fertility treatment abroad. Since the birth of our son in 2018, I have made it my mission to make fertility treatment more informed, transparent, accessible, supported and affordable for more people. And I help people just like you to become unstuck, to find a best fit clinic that truly meets their needs, and to have fertility treatment on their terms and timescales so they can achieve their dreams of growing their families. And I'm here now to help you too. Be sure to check out the free resources in the show notes for more help after listening to today's episode. Hello and welcome to this episode of the IVF Abroad podcast with me, your host and fellow fertility buddy, Emma Haslam. How are you doing? I'm so excited to be back after a short break in the podcast. In today's episode, I want to chat to you about the hidden costs of staying in the UK or places like the US to have your fertility treatment. One of the biggest risks to growing our families is staying in a country, in a system that is making you wait, that is costing you irreplaceable time and energy, and one that may also be draining you really quickly financially too. So we all know that for 9 out of 10 people, going abroad to have fertility treatment is so much cheaper, even including flights and accommodation. But for some people, they choose to stay in their home countries, like here in the UK. And I'm not saying that that isn't right for some people, but there are lots of people that don't understand what some of the hidden costs are of remaining here to have your fertility treatment. And often we don't find these things out until we are in it, and then it feels like it's a bit too late, or maybe in some cases it is too late. So I want to talk about some of these things because I know for some people, they just think, oh, I can't go abroad. It feels like too much hassle. It feels too big. And perhaps the cost differences are not enough of a motivator to make some people go abroad. And, you know, there's lots of other benefits too, but I know that's the main one that people think about. But there are so many hidden costs that you need to be aware of before deciding whether to have your fertility treatment in the UK or whether to look to go elsewhere. And I just want to make you aware so that you can make informed decisions. So the first hidden cost of staying in the UK for your fertility care, I think, is lack of choice. We are a small island with actually not that very many fertility clinics. And if you live outside of London, you actually have very little choice unless you are going to travel to London. So if you are going to travel, then really, in my mind, it doesn't make a huge difference whether that's abroad or within the UK. But why is it important when I talk about lack of choice? Like, why is that a hidden cost? Well, that's a hidden cost because you need plenty of choice. And the reason you need plenty of choice is you need fertility clinics that specialise in what you need guidance, help, support in. You need a fertility clinic that matches your budget. You need a fertility clinic that's going to support you in a way that you want and need support. And primarily, you need a fertility clinic that can offer you the right type of treatment and that has plenty of experience in the area that you may need it. So, for example, let's say unexplained infertility, or perhaps you've got immune issues. Perhaps you've got significant male factor infertility going on. And if you're just looking at your local, like what's your local fertility clinic, if you live outside of London, chances are there'll be one or two within an hour of where you live. And chances are they are not the right fertility clinic for you. But the issue is that not all fertility clinics are the same, and not all fertility clinics are good at the same things. And the issue is they don't tell you, oh, actually, you'd be much more suitable for a different clinic in this country. They will take you on as a client, whether or not you are right for them. And then it's only with time and money will you discover that they are not the right clinic for you. And that real lack of choice has a massive impact on so many things, because you're potentially wasting your time and your energy and your money in the wrong clinic. And that's not your fault. Like, how do you even know that all fertility clinics aren't the same? And, like on paper, and I've done an episode on the podcast about this, like on paper, a local fertility clinic feels so much easier, doesn't it? And in lots of ways, like, I totally get that, but it might feel easy now, but it won't feel easy later if it's the wrong clinic for you. So that real lack of choice, and not just around clinics, but around treatments that are available, around testing that's available elsewhere, that lack of choice ultimately can lead to you not growing your family, because either you're in the wrong place or they don't offer the right treatment that you might need or the testing that you might need to find out what's going on. And this is such a huge hidden cost to you. The other thing is time. Time for things like NHS delays. So maybe that's for testing. The time it now takes, if you're able to get anything at all, is phenomenal to even get some baseline tests done. And during that time, I know their internal clocks are ticking, but, in actual real time, you are losing precious time that is irreplaceable. I'm not saying that to scare you, but this is the reality. Things are just taking too long. And then people are being sent away, like I did, to lose weight, to hit NHS guidelines for fertility treatment, and then being told that things have changed. And it's really hard for people to get approved for NHS-funded IVF treatment. You may be lucky, genuinely hope that you are. You've got to weigh up the time that it all takes from going to the GP for that initial referral through to potentially getting approved or not, and whether it's worth it. Now, I know that some people listening to this will not have any choice. And I'm not saying that if you get an NHS cycle, you shouldn't go ahead and have it. You should. But if you are waiting and waiting and waiting, and you have the option to look at going privately, then maybe you have to just take a step back and think, actually, do we have time to be waiting? We wasted 3 years on our fertility journey waiting for the NHS. 3 years. And we didn't end up actually getting the treatment in the end anyway. So I'm saying this just so that you can, I suppose, check in with yourself if you've been waiting for a long time, as to whether or not actually you've waited too long. Same as well in terms of delays privately for things. I've seen it where people have needed a gynae procedure and the clinic they're with doesn't offer that gynae procedure, so they've then had to go and try and source that somewhere else, and that's taken a long time because it's a cost that they couldn't have foreseen coming, and then the clinic couldn't coordinate it, or where a clinic isn't set up to offer a wide range of donors for egg donation, for example, for somebody who's a person of colour, and so people just sat on waiting lists. waiting and waiting for donors that may never come. So just because you go privately in this country doesn't always mean that everything happens quickly, which is what you think the assumption should be when you're paying as a private client, but it isn't always the way. So again, then it comes down to that loss of time. And all of these things, not just in terms of time, in terms of our fertility, but also time in terms of being stuck in this limbo, in this awful situation where nothing is really happening and you're just waiting. Because all of this causes massive stress, puts pressure on you, it puts pressure on your relationships. And it's not good for us. It's horrible when you are in it. And I think people assume, I was the same, that if you go privately in the UK, that there won't be any delays, but that's just not always the case. And again, delays just feed into more time passing by on a journey that, is about time and about speed. And also not just from that side of things, but just the mental torture of being in it for such a long time is horrendous. And that's a massive hidden cost that you might not see, particularly if you're at the beginning of your fertility journey, but one that over time just completely drains us. I touched on it before, but the other hidden cost of UK fertility care treatment, I think, is for those people having donor conception. So here in the UK, we are a country that offers known donation. There is a common misconception that by going abroad, everything is anonymous donation, and that actually isn't true. There are countries that offer. You can find both depending on the countries that you go to. But abroad, you will find there are a lot more egg donors available, particularly across different, what they call phenotypes, so different hair colour, skin colour, eye colour. So this is advantageous for people of colour. You have to obviously pick the right country for your donor conception needs and for matching, but you have a lot more choice around this. And then you also have the choice around whether or not you want to look for an anonymous donor or a non-anonymous donor. And I've had people sat on waiting lists who've come to me who've been waiting and been told it'll be another couple of months. And then 2 years later, they're still on a waiting list waiting for an egg donor. And again, that all feeds back into the time and the stress. And it's not fair on people. And I think when you decide that, when I say when you decide you're ready, you've been ready for a long time. That's why you're listening to this podcast and you'll have been trying for ages. But when you decide that you are ready to start your treatment, you should be able to begin that treatment journey without significant delays. And if you haven't got access to the right clinic for you, if you can't stretch your budget for the treatment that you need, if you can't do things in a timely manner and have options for things like donation, options for things like different treatments and different testing, all those things are going to impact on the end result and on the experience that you're going to have while you're going through this. And these things will take their toll. And these things could be the things that mean the difference between you growing your family or not. And I really honestly think that these are some huge challenges that people don't necessarily see until they go through and experience this. Time's a huge one, but also in terms of the restrictive rules for the NHS, that's tricky in terms of who actually does qualify for NHS treatment. But then also things like rules around BMI, which at a lot of clinics in the UK are really restrictive. And yes, of course, we need to do things in a safe way with the correct clinics, but, that can stop people who are perfectly fit and healthy from becoming parents when actually you could go to some clinics abroad where they can help you. And also, I think while you are stuck in these loops, it gives you more time to feel an impact on your mental health. You know, you're stuck in limbo, like anxiety, depression. It's just awful. Having been there, it's just awful. And I see this with people before they become my clients, where they've had some horrific experiences that put their trust in doctors that actually were just not right for them. Or, you know, they've just thought that perhaps when they got a referral from their GP for IVF, that was going to be the appointment where they would be told, right, let's get started, not realising that, you know, that's like a first appointment. And the whole process, if you get accepted, can just take so long. So these are the things that you just need to take into consideration, I think, when weighing up where to go. Because you could save yourself so much time, potentially, money, heartache, by going abroad. If you haven't watched my free training, where you can learn more about going abroad, then I will link it in the show notes for you. This is a video training where I will tell you more about it, also give you the watch outs and the highlights as well. And this could help you to work out whether or not going abroad is right for you, or if you know that it is right for you, but you want to learn more, then it's going to tell you everything that you need to know. I'd love to know which of these hidden costs perhaps you hadn't considered. You can drop me a DM on Instagram at your IVF Abroad. I'd love to hear from you. I'd also love to hear from you if there's anything you'd like me to speak about on the podcast. Again, just drop me a DM on Instagram and I can add it to a list of ideas, because I would love that. And if you find this podcast helpful, then I would absolutely love it if you would hit the bell button, if you would review it and subscribe and share it with somebody else that you may feel this would help, if you know anybody else that's struggling with fertility, because it's so hard to get podcasts found now. There's so many out there. But if you have found this helpful, I would love to reach more people and to help more people. So until next week, I hope you found that helpful and I shall speak to you soon. Bye-bye. If you are facing more obstacles than options and want to learn more about how to overcome your fertility testing and treatment challenges in your home country so that you too can fast track to growing your family and on your terms, then check out my free training at yourivfabroad.co.uk/free masterclass. Don't forget to rate and subscribe so you don't miss an episode and so that I can reach and help more people. Thanks for